Hello, it's a great day in Kansas. Welcome to the first episode of our ImprovED podcast. My name is Justin.Coffey, and you can find me on Twitter at Justin.B.Coffey. ImprovED is a video podcast with the goal of pushing the advancement and evolution of education, along with serving teachers as they pursue professional growth. Today, my guest is Angela Lawrence, and Angela is a senior leadership consultant at Southwest Plains in Sublette, Kansas, and she has extensive experience as a teacher, building leader, and superintendent. And so, Angela, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
I guess I want to start off where I'm going to start off with all of our guests is what brought you into education? Like, how did you get into education?
Okay, well, first of all, I had a teacher, and most of us have teachers in our lives that were a real inspiration. I did have a teacher that was a real inspiration, but it was an inspiration that was not in a positive way. And so I remember as a fourth grade student growing up in like a two-room schoolhouse where we had the little kids upstairs, first through fourth grade, and the big kids, the fifth through eighth grade downstairs. I remember once I hit the big room, standing at the board with my three other classmates in front of the fifth through eighth grade students, and we were trying to do long division. And I didn't really quite get long division, but my other three classmates, they were really good at it. And so as the time wore on, I just remember standing up at the board being mortified about, I don't get this, and there was really no new instruction, there was no redirection, no help, if you will. And so I stood there for quite a while, and I remember the last thing before I sat down, still not really getting the problem correct. I worked it, but it wasn't correct. Thinking to myself, you know, if this person could be a teacher, I think I could be a teacher, but I would never do that to someone. So that was my reason for getting into education. And you know, since then, that experience has led me to a multitude of great positive interactions with educators, and just it was a real true inspiration, and it really drove me to wanting to be better and always wanting to improve. And I don't know, that just really is exactly what
Well, I think that's a great story. First of all, I think a lot of teachers have that experience. Either they have a teacher who they loved and was amazing and that brought them into education. That was the case with me. Or they had a teacher who was not so great or caused some sort of trauma in their education, and that's why they got into education. That's the story with how my wife got into education. So, but what's great is that something good came from that.
You know, and that's exactly right. And that is one thing that in all of my experiences with all of the wonderful educators that I have met throughout the years, you know, always keeping that positive perspective. I mean, look for the good in everything and in everybody. Don't focus on the negative. Just spend 80% of your time focusing on 20% of the problem. You don't spend 80% of your time focusing on 20% of the problem. Flip-flop that. Spend 20% of your time focusing on 80% of the good things that are going on.
That's great advice. That's super good advice. I appreciate it. That's what makes you a great teacher right there. Who is someone that you looked up to growing up? Like who's someone that provided you inspiration that you looked up to as you were growing up?
You know, I grew up with two wonderful parents, and you know, they still are my inspiration. They're 81 years old, and you know, shouldn't really probably be telling this, but on the way to work this morning, we're having a family chat through text with my 81-year-old parents. And you know, that's just pretty amazing when I think about how far technology has evolved in my lifetime. And then I think about my elderly parents that they aren't going to miss a beat. You know, they're on Facebook. They're not Twitter. They're not tweeters. But you know, just to be able to text and be able to order stuff off of Amazon Prime. But you know, I just
totally
really appreciate that they have been adaptive, just to be, you know, to keep in touch and to know they know what's going on in all of our lives. And you know, that's so I have a really close family, and that's probably my inspiration. And then, you know, of course there are always those great professionals that you get to work with every day that you're thinking, wow. I mean, you know, and I'm just a lifelong learner, so I try to, you know, my dad always had a saying of birds of a feather flock together, and it's hard to soar with the eagles when you hang with turkeys. And so, you know, just that doesn't mean that you don't try to pull everyone up to be an eagle. But and he instilled that lesson as well. But I just really always have remembered that.
Yeah. Well, again, another really good lesson, and it sounds like your parents helped instill that, like, love for learning and that lifelong learner attitude within you, and so that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about, are there any books or blogs that you're currently reading? Is there anything that that you've been into lately to keep this learning happening?
Oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff out there happening in the world of education. Anything around redesign that I can get my hands on right now, that is something that I think, when I started in education 20 plus years ago, one of the things in the back of my mind was, wouldn't it be great if I could redesign a high school? Not so much the elementary and the middle school, because, you know, there's certain foundations that have to be laid, but, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could redesign a high school and do away with the Carnegie unit and do away with the Bell system? And it's happening, you know, and it in pockets, and we're starting small, but so anything around redesign is really catching my attention right now. But the other thing is just anything inspirational. There is a great Facebook page that I follow, the Principles of Principles, and that is a great Facebook page. The other one is 2-minute bite-sized PD, and they just have some really great inspirational little blurbs out there that are just so powerful that I try to share out and get out to people. But
I'm gonna have to check both those out, because that's what I need every once in a while. It's just a little bite of goodness, you know, of inspiration to help keep me going. And for those of you who don't know, Kansas is in the middle of a push to redesign schools, and so what I like about it is that it's not the Department of Education coming in and saying, this is what we want you to change. It's districts and teachers and building leaders looking at their own system and saying, what do we need to do to make this better? And so it's happening at the local level, and you're able to have some input with that in the state. And
one of the things that I really appreciated about redesign is the fact that high school students for the first time are able, still with a little bit of guidance and a little bit of structure, able to own their own education and able to take accountability and responsibility for their next steps. And I think that is really important, because one of the biggest reasons that I felt like we really needed to redesign high school even years ago was the fact that it's not that the content isn't good, and it's not that the people that are delivering the content are not wonderful people. That's not it at all. What I feel is happening is that there was such a push of, you know, the next step. What happens after you graduate high school? And a lot of students don't even know. They live in a box, and they have not explored all the possibilities and all the capabilities and all of the wonders that could be out there. And I think that is one thing that I really appreciate about redesign, is helping students and their parents and the community understand that, you know, college isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And technical school isn't for everyone. And we need to be helping students find their interest and match them up with their capabilities. And I think that's what I really appreciate about redesign.
Yeah, me too. And I think you're right that it's been something that's needed to be addressed for a while, but now I feel like it really, like, we're at a point where we need to really think about it, because when we were kids, we were kind of sold this promise that if you work hard in school, then you can go to college, and then you can get a good job. And kids are still kind of being told that story, but I don't think they believe it. You know, with the rising cost of college, and they see a lot of their older brothers or even their parents who did that and now still don't have a job, or not the job that they hoped to have, or things like that. And so, our world is changing.
It is
and
changing.
Our schools need to change along with the world to serve our students.
And I think along with that, you know, one of the things that we have stifled for so long is innovation and creativity. I mean, you know, and somewhere along the way in our 13 years of formal education, it seems like that those two things get diminished and put on the shelf. And I am hopeful that with redesign that we can reinstate that and rekindle that, so that we can see we need innovators, we need creators, we need those ideas, and we need people to be passionate about what they're doing.
100%. That leads me to my next question here. Kind of what projects or programs are you working with at Southwest Plains that has you excited, like has you passionate about the work that you're doing?
Just getting to work with amazing educators. You know, probably one of the biggest things that I really appreciate about Southwest Plains is being able to be in so many different schools and getting to meet not only the staff but the students and see what is happening in each school. Each community is totally different, and that's great, because, you know, there's just a lot of great things happening in each district. But one of the biggest things that I'm working with is helping coach principals so that they can coach teachers. And, you know, I use that word coach because we need to be working collaboratively as a team, not a hierarchy mindset, but we need to shift that mindset into, hey, we're a team. How can we make this work? You know, this is what I know. I like what you did here. How can we merge those and, you know, spread that positivity? I think we can get caught in the mire and the muck of the managerial stuff and the negativity that's happening around us, and we need to spend a lot more of our time focusing on all the good things that are happening, because there's a lot of good things happening out there.
That's great.
So one of the things is the coaching principals, and through the e-walkthrough tool, which is a digital observation tool, and I really love that work. I love the KISA work, which is our accreditation model, being able to hear the different challenges in the district and how they plan to address those. You know, sometimes I think our general community thinks that we just study reading, writing, and arithmetic in school, and they don't take into all the other factors that go into before we can even start on those standards that we have to educate. And, you know, not that we have to necessarily educate, but we have to deal with and address. Trauma sensitive and trauma informed schools, that's really something that, you know, we've got to address that social emotional need before we can start cracking down on the academics. So those things are really important. But the redesign and KISA and actually getting to coach principals, that's exciting. That's
great. One of the things that I've learned from this position at Southwest Plains and being in different school districts all the time is when I was in my classroom, I never realized the impact that principals have on the learning and the environment of a school. And so to hear that you're working with principals and helping them create those kinds of great environments where learning can happen is good to hear.
It's so true.
I didn't know how much of an impact they had.
Yeah, you know, and that is so true. I mean, you know, that is probably one of the key roles of an effective building principal is establishing that culture and feeding that culture.
Yeah.
You know, and you know,
because culture can switch real quick.
Oh,
and
it
can
does.
Turn negative, and you know, I've heard about those schools. I'm so thankful that I always had a great building leader, and so I didn't know about that. But yeah, you're right. Like that's a really important aspect of a building leader's role is to
make sure to, you know, cultivate that culture. I mean, that is just really important.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so if someone wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, of course, and on Twitter. And Justin, you'll tag me with my Twitter handle.
Yep, I'll add the Twitter handle to the comments down below.
Awesome. And my email is angela.lawrence@southwestswplains.org. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I would love to hear from you. I may not have the answer, but I will do everything that I can to find the answer for you or point you in the right direction. I know a lot of people, and that's so important in education. You know, network with people. That you can't do enough networking. And I cannot tell you how blessed I am and thankful I am about just to be able to work with a high caliber of professionals at all levels, from teachers to principals to instructional coaches to superintendents to the State Department. I mean, you know, it's really refreshing to, you know, because ultimately we all share the same common vision, which is we want to do what's best for kids.
Yeah.
And keeping that at the forefront, just finding others that share that commonality is awesome. Refreshing.
Yeah, you're right. We have a lot of great people looking out for our kids and trying every single day to do what's best for our kids, and so it is refreshing to get to work with those people every day.
You bet.
It's great. So. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
Good?
Yeah, hey, you bet. Thank you for being on our very first episode. That's really great. And viewers, if you have any suggestions on how we can improve this experience for you, please leave a comment below. If you're interested in hearing future episodes, please click subscribe, and then click on the little bell so that you can get notifications when we put out new episodes. And thank you very much for joining us. Thanks again, Angela.
I appreciate it. Thank you.